All right, so we all knew this was coming. We all knew this was going to happen, but I just didn't expect it to happen so soon. The world's first AI developer is here, and software engineers should definitely be scared of it. This one is called Devin, and it's by a company called Cognition. And the company claims that Devin is a completely autonomous AI developer. The first time I saw Devin, I simply scrolled past it. There's a new AI tool dropping every single day, and Devin didn't pique my interest. But then I saw a post. It said Devin is doing gigs on Upwork. And I'm like, what? So that is when I decided to look into Devin, and this is what I found. So what I'm looking at right now is the official blog post that released Devin. This is the official website of Cognition Labs, and this is what Devin looks like. So as you can see here, it seems like Devin has a chat interface. So it's very similar to a lot of the AI tools that are already out there. Right? You can write prompts, you can ask Devin or talk to Devin like as if you're talking to an actual human. And then this is where Devin is different. Devin has a shell. It has access to an environment, a shell. It has a planner, so it plans whatever task you give it. Then it has a browser, and what it does with the browser is it browses the internet to actually debug problems. So let's say, just like in the case of an actual engineer, if the person faces a problem or if the person faces a bug, then the next thing to do is to look up the bug, right? To see if you can fix the issue from Stack Overflow, you can read the documentation, and that is exactly what Devin does. So as you can see in this demo, Devin actually encountered an error, right? And Devin was able to not only identify that it was an error or what the error was, and it was able to look up online, go through documentation and fix the error. But that's not all that Devin can do, right? So if you scroll down there, there's a section for Devin can learn how to use unfamiliar technologies. And this is again something that is going to be very useful if you are going to have a software developer or if you're going to have an AI software developer. Right? If I play the video, this particular project is from a blog post and right here. So what you can do is you can actually link to the blog post that contains information you want Devin to digest, right? And Devin will take the information and based on your prompt or whatever you want it to do, then you can just, let's say in this case, she asked Devin to create an image, right? And well, there it goes. I think this is just a demonstration of how quick Devin can learn a new framework or a new tool that it doesn't already have information about. So it can read documentation and blog posts just like a human, and it has access to an environment where it can pull resources, and it has access to a browser. So if it encounters bugs, then it can just look up and possibly fix the issue. Then there's Devin can build and deploy apps end to end. I think this is a big deal. If you're gonna have a developer or if you're gonna have an AI as a developer, this is actually a big deal, right? Because just think about it. Who are the people who are actually gonna use an AI developer? It's mostly gonna be people that are not developers, right? But if the AI writes the code for you and then you have to deploy the code yourself, then you already have to have some level of basic knowledge, right? But this is where Devin shines because you don't actually need to know code or even how to run the code. Devin can simply not only code for you, but also deploy for you. And I think this is an excellent example of what it does. So if you look at this video, the person in the video is actually trying to create the game of life. It's basically like a fun pattern that forms on the screen based on very simple conditions, right? And what you see here is that the part where Devin has to code the game of life is something that I think the other AI tools are also capable of doing. But then when it comes to deploying the tool, that is something that only Devin can do at the moment. On top of that, Devin also keeps context of the entire work, right? Because if you think about development, you're not going to be done with a big project in like a few hours. You're not going to be done with a big project even in days. It's going to take a very long time. And the question I have in mind, or the first question I have, is how long does Devin actually keep things in memory, right? Because if you have an actual engineer, he's going to keep track of the entire project and probably write documentations to remember what he's doing. And this is where a lot of the AI tools struggle because the AI tools are serving multiple people and it's not development all the time. So it's very difficult to keep track of the context. Now, in this example, the person is coding the game of life and he asks Devin to make some changes. And this is just an example of how Devin makes those changes. And it does it well. And there you go. It's hosted. So that is, I think, something that it's very unique to Devin. And if they can work on this technology to support, let's say, other platforms like AWS or Linode or any other platform that we would like to use, then I think that would be even awesome. Okay, moving next, we have Devin can anonymously find and fix bugs in code bases. Now, this is again something that you expect all software developers to do. And this is something especially you expect from an AI software developer. So one of the things that all developers have to do is that you don't really code everything from scratch, right? You often have a code base that has already been written by a lot of people, and you have to fetch the files, and then you have to work on those files, right? So that is something that other tools are completely incapable of doing. This is, I think, where Devin takes the medal. So if you look at this video, Devin is actually given a repository. It has been given a GitHub repository, and it fetches the information from the repository, and then it works on it. So let's fast forward a little bit. So you see Devin at work here, right? So you have the chat interface, and it also seems like you can rearrange or reposition them on the screen. So you have the chat interface over here. This one looks like a shell. You have the browser down there, and this one is the code editor where Devin is actually coding, right? And the best thing about it is if Devin is doing it on the fly and it is doing it on the GitHub repository, it is making changes and pushing and committing changes to the GitHub repository. I think we might just have found an actual AI developer. Okay, so this is really powerful stuff here. Let's continue. So Devin can train and fine tune its own AI. I guess this is expected, especially if you give an AI access to executing code, writing code, executing code, and then its own environment and access to the internet to fetch information and install packages. I think this is just given, right? So if you look at the prompt here, you just give a link and you just say there are instructions in the README file, and Devin will basically read the README file and it will pick up instructions from there. Lovely. Okay, so what you also see is Devin is installing repositories and files or packages that it needs, and it is executing the code on its shell. Moving on, we have Devin can address bugs and feature requests in open source repositories. This is basically an open source terminal, and what Devin is asked to do here is Devin is asked to show the error codes if things go down, and that is something that is not there in this repository. So Devin is asked to modify the repository, and if you move further, Devin does the job. And this is something that actually caught my eye, right? Because you see, Devin was given real jobs on Upwork. So if I just play this video, so they actually gave Devin a Upwork profile, and I think they've got the first gig as well. Okay, so it's like an image identification software. All right, so in the blog post, you also have this section where they rate Devin's performance. They are basically using the SWE benchmark for this, and what they're trying to do is they're basically trying to see how effective Devin is in solving real world problems, right? And it seems to have an accuracy, or it seems to be able to resolve 13.86% of issues end to end. And comparatively, this was an improvement from the 1.96% earlier. And if you look at the other tools right here, there's ChatGPT 4, which is like 1.74%, and compared to that, Devin is around 13.86%. So here are my takeaways from Devin. It has proved to have a heightened intelligence when it comes to development tasks, and the benchmarks really show that, right? But I think the actual power of Devin is not really the AI, but giving the AI access to the other stuff that comes with it, right? For example, the code editor or the terminal, the shell, giving it an environment to execute code, giving it a browser and access to internet. And now, because of all of that combined, it's as if like it is a brain that has more hands and limbs. If I just summarize the advantages of Devin right now, first of all, it seems like Devin has a higher memory. It has the ability to keep context of the tasks that it is doing. So if you, let's say, make a prompt, you do not have to repeat the previous instructions. At least that is what I hope. All right, so that's my review of Devin. I think one of the most important upgrades of Devin is its ability to write code in a code editor, have an environment where it can execute code, have a browser where it has direct access to internet, and then the intelligence to wrap everything up. Devin is by far the most powerful AI development tool out there, and there is no doubt about that. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to read them, and I'll see you in the next video.